Khaled Beydoun. He's a law professor at Wayne State University School of Law, and he's joining us from Detroit. Mr. Beydoun, thank you for being with us here on TRT World. Let's begin at where I think we can start from with this. Has the international community let the Palestinians down?
Definitely on many levels. International organizations like the UN, the Arab League, governments, nation states, politicians, the silence is deafening over the last couple of days with regard to what's happening first in Sheikh Jarrah, and now obviously in Gaza.
But it's not just the past couple of days, is it? It's been decades now where the Palestinian cause has not been given the support that it needs in the international arena.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a prolonged issue. Calling it a clash or a crisis, I think, is a misnomer. The power difference is clear, and you have, a Palestinian people that are being incessantly pummeled, persecuted. And we're now seeing, very vividly the sort of fruit of that, global apathy about this issue.
I mean, the terms are set, and you and I will have seen this over the past few decades and seen the situation for the Palestinian people. We all know what's happening in that region. So I must ask, why has nothing changed? Why has there been no difference? Why did we see under the Trump administration this sort of faux two-state solution, which was never anything of the name?
Yeah, I can go on for hours as to why things haven't changed, but I think that a primary reason why things haven't changed is, the sort of stereotyping and caricaturing of the Palestinian people as, inferior, as subhuman, as terrorists, as, a population that is deserving of this violence that is being inflicted upon them. I think that, looking at this from a racial dimension is very important. Second, you've had in the United States, where I live, bipartisan support for the state of Israel and almost unfettered bipartisan support. So even though Trump was more zealous in his, or explicit in his support of, a more hawkish Israeli posture, the Democratic Party now under Biden and Kamala Harris has been silent. The funds are continuing to the state of Israel. Weapons are continuing to the state of Israel. So there's, consensus support for the state of Israel across the political spectrum here in the United States, which makes it very difficult to change things and to better the conditions in the lives of Palestinians in the West Bank and in Gaza.
Let's leave the support for Israel to side for 1 minute and dig into that racial element that you mentioned there, because that is a fascinating area to explore. Are you suggesting there is still, in 2021, a massive othering of the Palestinian people?
Oh, definitely. I think that if you look at headlines from prominent newspapers like the New York Times or the Washington Post, if you navigate past or through social media timelines on Twitter, on Instagram, and so on and so forth, you can see the very stark racialization of Palestinians as being a lesser people. And especially when you sort of construct this broader binary, the state of Israel is viewed as a white nation. It is a white majority nation where, the sort of tinge of, white supremacy is domineering the sort of narrative going on in Palestine. So you have an Israeli population that is perceived and very much demographically a white population, pummeling a brown and other population, which are the Palestinians, I think, which in the broader sort of, imagination are viewed to be lesser. And when you're viewed as lesser and other, that invites and facilitates violence. And not only facilitates violence, but it sort of curries an acceptance, a broader sort of universal acceptability that a brown and non-white people are deserving of this violence.
Yeah, and that binary is buttressed by that unwavering support by the American state for the Israeli state, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. I think that, look, I mean, the United States, we all know, is a colonial settler state. You can draw analogies with the Palestinian people, with indigenous or Native Americans here stateside. So there's let's call it a epistemological affinity that the United States has for a settler colonial state like the state of Israel, doing exactly the same thing that the United States did many, many years ago. And I think that, look, this might sound rhetorical to the viewers. This might sound like it's sort of academic talk to the viewers, but it's deeper than that, because most Americans, most lay Americans who support the, imperial objectives of the United States see what's happening in Israel and they support it.
Absolutely. Okay, Khaled Beydoun, we could talk all evening, but we have to leave it there. And it's definitely not a rhetorical academic debate. It's massively important. Thank you very much for your analysis.